Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone.
We're learning Mishnah Yishkalim, Parak Dal, Chapter 4, Mishnah Hey, Mishnah 5. Okay. Meiser HaKetores. The surplus of the Ketores. Mario Isenba. What did they do with it? Now, Ketores was this blend of different spices and different ingredients. We call it incense, and it was burnt every day, but in the morning and the afternoon. Now, we need to have a little bit of an introduction here to understand. Well, we should get an understanding of what it means, leftover ketores. So the point is like this: there was a measure called a mana. 1 mana of ketores, of the incense, was offered on the mizbeach, on the golden altar inside the Beis Hamikdash every day of the year, half in the morning, half in the afternoon. Now, from which funds do we purchase ketores from? The same funds that we buy the communal sacrifices. A ketores is also a communal sacrifice. So it's bought from the shkolim. Okay. Since the amount of ketores prepared for the year was greater than what was typically needed, at the start of the year, there would usually be ketores left over from the previous year. You're always going to have leftover ketores, no matter what. By the time you get to Rosh Chodesh Nisan, which is the new year, the new fiscal year, for the new year for the sacrifices, you got to buy the sacrifices from the shkolim that were purchased for that coming year. You always had leftover ketores. Why is that? So listen to this. This is this calculation. At the beginning of each year, 368 mana. Again, mana is this measure, volume. 368 mana of ketores was prepared to provide ketores for the entire year. 365 mana correspond to 365 days of the solar year. And an additional 3 mana were prepared for the Yom Kippur temple service. Yom Kippur, there was always a special ketores that was brought on Yom Kippur, besides for the morning and the daily, right? That's the whole thing that we talk about on Yom Kippur. The Kohen Gadol goes into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Holy Holies, with the ketores, with the incense. Okay, so you've got, these are your 368 mana per year. Okay, all right, so there's always going to be surplus. Reason number one, there's going to be a surplus, Richard. Reason number one, there's always going to be a surplus.
It's leap years.
Because if it's not a leap year, there's only 354 days to the Jewish calendar. Okay, so therefore, most of the time you're separating amounts per solar year. But if it's not a leap year, you're only using 354 days worth. Okay, that's number one. Number two,
for that for leap years, do you?
We'll say, I guess.
From that?
Well, you see, it could be leap years. You have to figure out, how much extra. You have to figure it out. Now, while 3 mana were prepared for the Yom Kippur service, 3 mana, okay, only approximately 1/2 mana was actually used, and the rest was extra. Meaning, because a Kohen Gadol is supposed to take a handful, so his handful, was only so much. So even though I don't know the reason why they did, essentially starting with 3 and they're doing with that, maybe in order for him to be able to get his handfuls of it, they needed to have a certain amount. I'm not sure exactly. But at the end of the day, they started with 3 mana set aside for Yom Kippur, and they didn't use the whole 3 mana. So this is why you always have leftover ketores. You always have it. So therefore the question is, what do they do with it? How do they deal with it? So so you got to listen to the Mishnah well, because it's a little bit of a complicated path to getting to where they wanted to get to. And there's going to be an obvious question why make it so complicated, and we'll get to the answer for that. But right now we got to get through what exactly took place. All right. So it's like this. Mafrishin mimena schar hu'umnin. We would take from it. It means the truma funds. That means we're talking about the funds of the shkolim themselves that were collected for the communal sacrifices, and we separated from them, and we say that we pay for communal, and we pay for communal sacrifices from it, right? And then we said when there were extras left, we used it for this thing, for that. So the Mishnah says, "Mafrish ben eschara umnin." There were people who had to prepare the Ketores. There were craftsmen who compounded the special blend of spices that form the Ketores. Somebody had to do that. They had to get paid. What did they get paid from? They got paid from the from the shkalim. Because the same way you buy the Ketores ingredients with the shkalim because used for the communal sacrifice, those who compound it so we should be able to offer it also get paid from the shkalim that we use for the communal sacrifices. So step number one, we have these umnin, we have these workers who are involved in the Ketores. We have to pay them. So what do? We set aside money to pay them from the communal funds. All right. Do we actually give it to them? No, we don't. We actually take it, and one of the administrators of the Beis HaMikdash funds, he basically receives it for them. He receives the monies for them. Right? So they take the monies, the administrator represents these craftsmen, and he receives the money for them. Okay. Now, that means that we took money, the shkalim that were sanctified, right? They're sanctified for the communal sacrifices. We now paid these workers. What happens to that money now? Is it still sanctified or not? The answer is no, it's not. We are allowed to go ahead and use that money to pay these workers. And once we go ahead and we pay the workers with it, the money is no more sanctified. So right now we have left unsanctified money. All right. Next step. Umechalalin oisa al schar ha'umnin. Now we then take the leftover ketores and we mechalal it. We deconsecrate it. Thank you. We deconsecrate it onto these wages of the craftsmen. Meaning, we have a process, right? When something is sanctified, belongs to the Beis HaMikdash, if we want to take the sanctity off, right? When we're allowed to do that, we can take money and we can transfer the sanctity from the object onto the money. It's almost like an exchange. Okay. So now what you're doing is you have the surplus ketores, and we now deconsecrate that surplus ketores onto the wages of the craftsmen. Now you're going to say, hey, do the craftsmen want that to happen to their money? And the answer is, of course they do, because they want to help out the Beis HaMikdash. Mm-hmm. So we get their permission. It says we do it with their permission. Okay, so with their permission, their money their wages that they were paid for their work, that money was used to deconsecrate the surplus ketores, the actual surplus ketores. So the sanctity of the ketores now goes onto those monies. All right. Now, the noisnin isa leumanin bischaran. What do we do now? Now the next thing we do is we actually take now that we deconsecrated the ketores. You've got a bunch of this. You've got this blend of spices, right? That's not consecrated. And you know what we do with it? Since we took the wages of the craftsmen and we transferred the sanctity of the ketores onto their money, so now they don't really have the usage of that money anymore. Mm-hmm. We take the deconsecrated ketores and we say, here, this is how we're paying you. We're giving you ketores. Okay. Now, by the way, they're not here. They're not here. But this is a process that we're doing. We're doing it. We've got their permission. We're doing it for them. Okay. We then go ahead and we give to the craftsmen for their wages. And then we go and we buy the deconsecrated ketores. We buy it back from them. We buy it back. We now take money from the new shkalim because we want to use this excess ketores for the coming year. But if we want to use it for the coming year, we got to buy it with the shkalim that was separated for the coming year. So we're now going to go ahead and take money. We're going to take the new money. We're going to buy the deconsecrated ketores from the workers. And now we will use what?
That they never saw.
That they never saw, right? And we're going to buy it back from them. And so now we're using funds for the new year. We now buy the Ketores for the leftover Ketores, which was deconsecrated for the new year. And the owners, at the end of the day, their workers, at the end of the day, they got their money. They got their money. Okay? Now, the obvious question is like this, and I'm going to read to you from the notes. Seemingly, the end goal of this process could have been achieved in a simpler way. The temple could have simply sold the leftover Ketores to another party, which would result in it becoming deconsecrated, and then repurchase it from them with the new Truma funds. You have extra Ketores, right? And the problem is it's old, right? So you can't use it for the coming year. So you know what you do? Take it, sell it to someone, which is because when you're redeeming it on the money, you're basically doing the same thing. Sell it to someone. By selling it to someone, the Ketores will now become deconsecrated. The monies that were used will become consecrated because that's what happens. That's part of the exchange, part of the deconsecration. Okay, but the Ketores now is deconsecrated, and then you take coins from the new batch for the coming year, buy the Ketores back, and use it for the coming year. Could have done that very simply. Why don't we do it? However, the method described in the Mishna, although more complicated, protects the dignity of the holy Ketores. Through this method, it never leaves the hands of the temple or its employees. The necessary results are accomplished in a quiet way. Instead of going out to someone and offering to buy it, we keep it all very much in-house. It doesn't leave the Beis Hamikdash, it doesn't leave its employees. It's done in a more quiet way, maybe more complicated, but again, all happening within the Beis Hamikdash itself. You've got the administrators taking care of it for the workers. It was again. It starts off. We're dealing with the workers who work with the Ketores. So therefore, by doing it in this process, it's more respectful to the Ketores. It's more private, and that's why we go through this whole process. Now, so we just finished saying that that after the Ketores is deconsecrated, we're going to use the new funds to go ahead and buy the deconsecrated Ketores, use it for the coming year. What happens in a situation where the new funds are not available? That means the funds were collected, and then the Beis Hamikdash was laid siege by an enemy. You can't get to the money. You can't get to the new coins. Finished. You just can't get to it. So what do? So the Mishnah says like this: if the new coins come in time, meaning they're available to use to buy the deconsecrated Ketores back, then you buy it with the new withdrawal of coins. Okay, meaning from the coins that were collected for the coming year. Vimlav, and if not, let's say they're not available, then you use the old ones. You're supposed to use the new ones for the coming year, but if the new coins are not available to be able to do this, then you don't have the new coins. You got to use the old coins. So basically, the point is that of course we always try to. We're obligated for the New Year's communal sacrifices to use coins collected for that new year. But if those coins just aren't available, we just can't get to it, and we need to move forward, then use the old coins. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.